Treasury Secretary Paulson told Congress in a sobering meeting last night that a bailout is the only way to prevent a collapse.
America's economy is facing unprecedented challenges, and we are responding with unprecedented action.
It is no stretch to say that after this week, the era of big government is back.
It is an urgent request from the Bush administration to Congress for $700 billion to quickly stabilize the financial system.
With Wall Street in shambles, Frankensteinian Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson has ridden to the rescue with a brilliant plan.
The federal government's $700 billion plan to bail out the financial industry.
$700 billion of your money. $700 billion.
$700 billion.
$700 billion.
Obviously is a lot of money. $700 billion is an awful lot of money. Do you think Paulson will take it? Well, he will, but only under certain conditions. For Secretary Paulson to accept our money, his decisions must be, quote, non-reviewable and committed to agency discretion and may not be reviewed by any court of law or any administrative agency. Before we hand this monster-esque unelected official $700 billion no-strings-attached dollars, there is one thing you should know. This financial guru never saw it coming.
I've got great confidence in our financial market, our financial institutions. Our markets are resilient, they're flexible. Our institutions, our banks and investment banks are strong.
Foresight!
It is naive for any of us to think that when you're dealing with a situation of this magnitude, that a bill could be passed or a single action could be taken to make all the issues go away.
He's the CEO president. He's got an MBA from Harvard Business School.
It turns out that there's a lot of interlinks throughout the financial system.
Whoa! Slow down, Greenspan. Wow. I mean, that went.
And more details from the Washington Post this morning. Greenspan says he was wrong on regulation. The piece co-written by Neil Irwin and Amit Pally, saying that Alan Greenspan, once viewed as the infallible architect of U.S. prosperity, was called on the carpet yesterday, pillared by a congressional committee for decisions that contributed to the financial crisis, devastating world markets.
And my question for you is simple. Were you wrong?
I made a mistake in presuming that the self-interest of organizations, specifically banks and others, was such as that they were best capable of protecting their own shareholders and their equity in the firms.
His plan to loosen interest rates and banking regulations a few years back did not quite work out.
I found a flaw.
You found a flaw in the reality.
A flaw in the model that I perceived is the critical functioning structure that defines how the world works.
The cost to American taxpayers rapidly going up and up and up, with the government rescuing everything from investment banks to government-sponsored mortgage giants to an insurance giant to private companies. The tally could cost about $1 trillion. Let me repeat that, $1 trillion.
I mean, think of the basic principle of this bailout, that we would borrow money from banks, because that's the only way we're going to get the $700 billion. We borrow money from banks to give to banks so that they can give us $700 billion worth of toxic debt from all over the world. I don't know. I couldn't vote for this, and unless they have some dramatic change in what they're doing that helps homeowners, depositors, pensioners, I'm not going to vote for it, and I think a lot of others will not either.
See, in today's mortgage industry, home loans are often packaged together and converted into financial products called mortgage-backed securities. These securities were sold to investors around the world. Many investors assumed these securities were trustworthy and asked few questions about their actual value. Two of the leading purchasers of mortgage-backed securities were Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Because these companies were chartered by Congress, many believed they were guaranteed by the federal government. This allowed them to borrow enormous sums of money, fuel the market for questionable investments, and put our financial system at risk. The decline in the housing market set off a domino effect across our economy.
Is there a metaphor that you could use, Mr. President, that would inspire even less confidence?
And then obviously AIG came along, and Lehman came along, and it declared bankruptcy. Then AIG came along, and the House of Cards was much bigger. And so when one card started to go, we were worried about the whole deck going down.
House of Cards.
My puzzlement is who was buying those things. And if you're going to tell me that there are a lot of instruments out there which make no sense, I agree with you.
Interestingly enough, 72% of them were held by hedge funds, the smartest people in the room.
That is what I find most disturbing.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with people who are dumb. We're dealing with, by far, the most sophisticated, thoughtful people about the way markets work who created the major problems.
Yeah.
We have to get smart quickly, okay? That we're stupid right now. The system is stupid. We need to make some adjustments. It's not fair and is not going to be a good use of your time and energy and effort to try and curb the behavior of S&P and Moody's and Fitch. Why? Because that's the way they're set up. Ratings are opinion, and you're stuck. Accept them for what they are, and go around and get another check and balance in the system.
There were good people in those firms at Moody's and S&P and Fitch that saw what was coming, and they tried to make management aware of it. And money was the overriding concern at the top of the firm. Some of these people are the same ones that brought Enron and WorldCom to us, and now they're going to give us another list of things. A lot of things on that list they promised to do after Enron and WorldCom exploded, and they still haven't done it. So the same people are still in charge of the hen house.
You have provided us with a definition of corruption that I think is bone-chilling. I can't begin to tell you how dismayed I am by what you have told us today.
Did the big banks mislead the credit rating agencies when they were crafting some of these financial products that the credit rating agencies then would rate so that the banks could sell them? It sounds a little complicated, right?
But somehow the conflict here is that the credit rating agencies are getting paid by the banks.
Well, and Allie, we now know that 93% of the subprime mortgage bundled products were rated AAA. Subprime, by definition, means subprime,
right.
That it's not AAA.
Right.
So we now know that a lot of these products were rated as the top quality products for investors when they were not containing top quality investments in the first place. So Cuomo's office is looking into this. He's also looking into, we're told, whether there was a revolving door between the mortgage desks of these big banks and the credit rating agencies. So you go, you know, just like everything in Wall Street and government or Wall Street and other parts of the system, you go from one place where you design the product to another place where you rate the product back to the, you know,